So today we're going to cover the dashboard, note, and slide, and which is really in the data science workflow, the last part. But that's not least. So this actually can be the most critical part of the data science workflow, because it doesn't matter even like you find a great insights from the data, but if you fail to communicate, that doesn't, then the people who are making the decisions are not going to be able to make the right decision or make the right informed decision. So this part is actually a really important part. So, and then the communication in, in the when we say communication, it comes in a different formats. And the dashboard tend not to be really the communication. It's more like kind of monitoring tool so that your business is going on the right path, so like by using by monitoring the KPIs or the trends in the chart or something like that. But nonetheless, like you share that type of information with the other teammates or other folks, stakeholders. And then a note and slides are more like kind of like intuitively understanding, oh, this is the communication, because you present stories around the insights you find in terms of like more like a document or reporting format, or the presentation slides with a bigger audience, or for the meeting situation. So today, instead of like going through all the slides, I'm going to do more like the live demo to go over quickly how to build a dashboard and notes and slides and so on. So let's do it. Okay. So I open the Exploratory UI here, and then left-hand side, the data frame, and then the second section, the left-hand side, it says reports. That's where like you can find dashboard, note, presentation, slides menu, and then we're going to start creating those things today. So before though, I want to just quickly introduce like what type of the data like we want to put in the dashboard, notes and so on. So we're going to use first the flight delay data, and then later like we're going to use the employee HR employee data. So first with this like a flight delay data, this is for like each rows is basically each flight, and then like how many minutes it delay, where the flight left and arrived in the US. And so therefore like you have like a carrier name and flight number, and then what time the flight left and arrived, that kind of information. Okay, so the one thing though, so like I want to introduce what are the charts are in this data frame. So like I created this kind of number of the flights trend by the line chart. Then like we have a bar chart, and then heat map, and all different type of the charts. Okay, and then on top of that, I have created something called number. And this number is something like we're going to see later. It typically in a dashboard context is very helpful. It's sort of like, think of it as like kind of can be the conversion, can be the KPI like a conversion rate, or canceling rate, or churn rate, or like a monthly revenue, and so on. And then like you can actually select the numbers from the chart list. And then all you need to do is select that whatever the numeric, or it can be the character too, but variable or column, then you get that numbers. So for example, here, like I have like number of the flights, and here is like an average departure delay time. And then like I have like an average arrival delay time, and so on. Okay, so I have these, and also another thing I want you guys to notice is I've used a parameter. So for example, here for the carrier, like this is like all these colors are actually a carrier here, but I'm using the parameter instead of typing the particular value, so that whoever will be looking at this chart later, or can be me, myself, or there can be the audience of the dashboard, will be able to change those values, then like manipulate the data from the sort of like that as a dashboard user. So I selected parameter, and then I could use the parameter. I have only one for this particular context, and then it's called carrier. And what that means is that when I click on this parameter bottom, right-hand side, there's a parameter pane shows up. And this is where like I can change the parameter values. I'm not going to do that right now, but you're going to see the exact same thing when we go into the dashboard. Okay, so that says, so this chart is coming from this particular step, and then like other charts as well. These are the stuff that are coming from this filter step. The cool, funny thing though is that, like, for example, if I move this pin bottom to before the filter step, and it doesn't matter like how I change the filter, because, for example, here this filter step, I'm actually using the filter for the carrier. I'm using also another filter for the arrival delay time. And then these are, when I go open this parameter, nothing, oops, let's go here. Nothing shows up, oops, nothing shows up. And that is because this chart is not depending on this step 2, depending on the first step. And that's why like, it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter. But the first chart, this line trend chart, is the data is coming from the second step. Therefore, if I click on the parameter, these parameters shows up because these parameters are important to be as an input because filter step is using them. Okay, so it might be a little bit confusing, but that actually becomes more important later. So this is basically like nothing to do with the dashboard yet. I just created that data. I imported this data. By the way, from this data is coming from Postgres SQL database by writing a SQL query, super simple SQL query. And then I'm using like filter step and then creating these charts. So most of the charts are coming from the step that are on the filter step or later other steps downstream. But only one chart, this bar chart, is coming from the step before the filter step. Okay, so this difference becomes important later. Okay, enough about the data. Let's start creating a dashboard. So to create dashboard, click on this plus button, and there's a dashboard, right? So like, and then let's say like this is like a flight delay dashboard or something like that. Just give it a name, and it opens separate window. And this is where like we can start kind of designing the dashboard itself. So it gets this UI, and then now like we want to start adding the chart. Okay, so let's do. So first, the very simple. So like click on that plus button, and then like you want to select the data frame. In this case, we are working on this flight Postgres SQL, right? So then like I can actually click on, for example, this chart, or like this number things. So let's start with a number. So like this one is a flight, the number of the flights. So like I'm gonna select on that, and then like I can add another one. And once you select numbers, so like in the same row of the dashboard, you can have only numbers. You can't mix like number and a chart because those require different real estate. So I'm seeing only the numbers here. So I'm gonna select these numbers, this like arrival delay. And then like if I had, let's say like if I drop the number in a different row, and then like I realize later, like, oh, you know what, like I want to move this to the different row, then like you can actually drag and drop to change that as well. And then like let's keep adding the different charts. So for example, this one is like that number of the flights trend. So I'm going to select that. And then like I'm going to select another one. So like this is like a bar chart. And then like also like let's keep adding other charts as well. And then again here, like if I want to move a different format, so like for example, like I want to have 3 charts, or like I want to move it back to 2 by 2, you can flexibly like drag and drop to change the layout as well. So at this point, let's click on this run button. And then making sure it's all the data being generated and then rendering the chart. And then like what we are looking at here is basically the numbers at the top, and then there's those 4 charts. Okay, and then you know what, like I noticed a couple of things. I don't like these title, like a chart 5, chart 6 and stuff. And that is because I didn't give any name for these chart tabs. If I gave the names for these chart tabs, and then default, these names should be reflected on them. But doesn't matter. Actually, I can override from here. So like there's an edit icon. So for example, this is like number of flights, and then this one is I think this is like a departure delay. My machine seems to be kind of like frozen, but that's okay. And then here, like I'm going to change this one too. And this is not the departure, arrival. And then the other stuff I can keep changing, but let's just keep for this stuff for this demo. And now get the data and then re-rendering all the charts again. And then I get the result. So like now, like this title, it's better than before. So I get the basic of the dashboard. So that's pretty much it. In terms of the building the dashboard, it's very simple. The one thing though, you remember like I was talking about the parameters, right? So these charts can be reflected based on what are the parameter settings, right? Like what value is being selected for the parameter. Okay, so how can we expose those parameters so that like users of the audience of the dashboard can actually use those parameters? So here's the parameter button. And when I click on these parameters shows up. There's carrier name and arrival delay. These are basically the parameters used at this filter step. You don't have to add the parameters explicitly in the dashboard. All the parameters are associated with the charts automatically being validated and then brought into the dashboard. So this is very automatic. That said, let's say if I didn't have any charts that are depending on these parameters, then you don't even see any parameters here. But in this case, only this particular bar chart is not depending on the parameters, but everything else is depending on the parameters. So therefore, like you're seeing these parameters. These parameters, by the way, can be used not only for the filter, but it can be used for the mutate or summarize or any other data wrangling steps. So depends how the parameters are used for the charts. And then, that doesn't matter how you be used, but as long as those parameters are used by the charts, and then they will show up automatically. Okay, so, and then you can click on that layout. If you don't want to show it to the audience of the dashboard or users of the dashboard, you can actually hide it too. Like this can be useful, like if you want to hide it, but you want to actually set kind of like a hidden parameter or something like that. Anyway, so from here, let's say like if I just want to see like American airline, and then maybe like a few airline companies, and then like you can actually click on it, select on it, and then again data can be refreshed automatically. And if you don't want that dashboard keep getting refreshed every time like you select, because let's say like you want to select the Studio 4 and you don't want the dashboard to keep getting selected, you can uncheck this auto run button. Then like you can just kind of select the few airline companies, and then like once you are okay, then you can actually click on the run button. But notice though, one thing. So like I have selected American Airline, Delta Airline, United Airlines. And then, so this chart, obviously these charts, it's easy to capture, easy to notice only these three airlines. But this bar chart is not, this still is showing all the carriers. And that is because again, this bar chart is not getting the data from the filter step. It's getting the data from the step before. So therefore, you can actually design so that what charts should be impacted by the filter and which charts are not. And then, these filters can be, this type of the parameter can be used inside the chart filter too. So if you could, these are the steps, but also you can create the filters by chart inside the chart. And then that way, like you can set like, hey, which filter to be impacted, kind of stuff as well. Okay, so so now like these are the parameters, and then like you can actually Oh, by the way, so here's the re-import data button. When you click this, what is going to happen is this happened to be using a SQL query from the database, right? So therefore, it will re-query the data. Let's say like next day, like you need to re-query the data, then like you can actually click on this button. If the data frames are, if this chart is coming from one data frame, another chart is coming from another different data frame with data frames here, right? If coming from different data frame. And then like one data frame is coming from Google Analytics, one data frame is coming from Redshift database, so from different data sources. Then like, you actually find which data frames need to be refreshed behind the scene and automatically re-query based on what needs to be done. So it's pretty, automatic and smart. So now here, once we are ready, and then like we can actually publish so that like we can share with other folks, right? Or you can just export in HTML, and then like if you want to just get this particular page, then you can actually do that as well. Then you don't have to publish. But you typically you want to publish it, then you can just send the URL to other person. Or even better, you can actually schedule it. And that's the part I'm going to show you from here. I'm going to you can select the private mode or public mode. If you share, if you publish in the private mode, then the dashboard cannot be seen by others unless you select the people who you want to share. I'm going to actually, let's say I publish in the private mode, and then give it the name and what the tag and whatever. I'm going to just publish right away. And what it's doing right now is bringing this in all the information of the not just the dashboard but also the chart and the data frame, and then putting together in a package and sending back, sending up to Exploratory.io. And if you don't want to use Exploratory.io, which is our cloud server, and then you can actually use something called Exploratory Collaboration Server, which you can install on your server or like your AWS instance or something like that, so that like you don't have to worry about like your dashboard might be accidentally shared with other people and that kind of stuff. And once it's published, and then here is a URL to access your dashboard. I'm going to click on this Open in Browser button. And then this is a dashboard UI in the web browser, or like this is like under the Exploratory.io, right? And then if you don't want to see this header area, you can click on this three dots button, and then like you can open open without header, and then that will just make this header area disappear. And you can also show embedded code, and then this is basically give you the code so that like let's say that you have the website or something that you can embed this dashboard. It's not just a dashboard, but also that if you share publish a chart, you can do the same thing as well. And then here the share button. This is where like you can share, let's say like your dashboard or like notes and slides. I'm going to show you later on. And then like let's say like you can select if you have shared already before, then like all you need to do is just select the people. Or like if you want to invite somebody, let's say like somebody at Exploratory.io, and then all you need to do is just set the email address and then click on the share button. And that will send the invite email to that person with this email. And then that person will be asked to sign up to create an account. But this account is a viewer account, not the business or personal account or community account. So therefore, that person cannot use a desktop unless they change the plan to, let's say, community for your teacher or student, or the personal or business. But that person will be able to see this dashboard. And then that is a free account. So like you don't have to worry about like that person has to pay that kind of stuff. Okay. And also, if you don't want to go bother like having to ask somebody to sign up even as a viewer account, then you could do is enable this URL link. And then once you enable, here is a link that's specially created. And then you share this URL link to the other people. The other folks can use this URL to open this dashboard. But the only downside of that is that like, as long as somebody has access to this URL, mistakenly email being forwarded or whatever, then can see this dashboard. So there's good and bad. Okay, so that's the share part, and then also you can schedule this dashboard. I think that's the most important part of the sort of like this type of the dashboard, right? So you might click on the schedule button, and then you set the frequency. Let's say like you want to do like every day, or maybe like every hour, every minute, and so on. You can set the schedule. Then one thing though is that in order for this dashboard to be scheduled, exploratory IO needs to access to that data source. So let's say like PostgreSQL database, or MySQL, or Google BigQuery, whatever that could be, or maybe like the files at the remote server. But let's say like you created this dashboard based on your local data on your desktop, then exploratory.io cannot access to that, of course. So therefore, like even schedule button won't be showing up. So so there's one thing. And then if you were using, let's say, like AWS instance, and then that has some kind of security setting that allows only particular domain or something like that, then there is a way to actually set it, or there is a way to actually use a tunnel, SSH tunnel or something like that. So if typically those things can be very simple, straightforward, but if you can't make it work, and then just let us know, and we'll help you to set it up. Okay, and then other thing is the parameters, right? So these parameters is basically the same thing that we saw in a desktop client. And then like if you want to use, or you want other people to use parameter, first you want to make this interactive mode to be on. And this basically start the R session, or this dashboard session at the server. Once it's connected, you're going to see this kind of like a Wi-Fi kind of like a icon. It says on. And then now like you can actually start interacting, and basically using the same capability you have on your desktop. So like it basically, Exploratory is really the UI for R. And then like now like you have that the server, Exploratory.io or collaboration server, either you have the R sessions running. So now like you can do a lot of different things. We have only filter, but think of it like you can have like additional calculation by using the parameters. You can set maybe like using the sliders to change the value to impact the calculation. Or let's say like you're building some like a prediction or forecasting model, and you might want to change some threshold, and then rebuild the model, that kind of stuff. You have like your whole R engine at the server. So this is very powerful. So let's say like if, for example, like I want to add like extra airline carrier company, let's say like maybe like a few more. Then like I want to change that, like maybe arrival delay time to be like a little bit higher. And then like I can just click on run, or I can check auto run, so that each time like I change the parameter values, automatically it runs either way. Then I just click the run button, and then like I get the new result here dynamically. And then notice one thing though, if these parameters happen to be as part of this original SQL query, then that means there will be SQL query will be resubmitted against the data source. Then you get that data. So depends these parameters are used, depends on like which these parameters, where these parameters are used. So if these are used only in the data wrangling step, and then that step will be refreshed. But if that's actually part of the SQL query, and then that SQL query also refresh. So it's very powerful. This just parameter thing has a lot of features. So like we're planning to have another session just focusing on the parameter. Okay, so that's about the dashboard. And then so let's go to the different other two things. So next thing is a note. And another thing is a presentation slide. And then what I want to do is, so you can start creating this note, but what I want to do is I want to open the existing one that I created it. And then this time I'm going to use the employee salary data. So that is here, and then employee salary attrition data frame. And when I go to the chart, I've created a few charts already. And also what I actually already did was to added the comments for each chart, because I didn't want to forget like whatever the things I found, right, by visualizing the data. So there's a chart name, and then here's the comments. And then So here you can, when I mouse over, you see the comments or annotation, whatever you call it, and so on. Okay. And also, like, I've created some analytics. I did a correlation analysis, and then, for example, this one, this is like employee data, right? So like there's a monthly income for each employee, and also the job level or department job roles, how many years they're working at the company, and or gender, and so on. And then like I wanted to see like what are the variables that correlated one another. In this case, particularly, I want to see like what variables are correlated to monthly income, and what makes the monthly income high or not, low, kind of stuff. So another thing I did was using a random forest, and then using the random forest to see like which variables have a better predictor. Or in another word, which variables are more correlated to the target variables? In this case, monthly income. So by just looking at this chart, I can see total working years, and then job role, and this is age. These are three most correlated or more better predictors, and they're more reliable in terms of like predicting the monthly income, or to understand how monthly incomes are made, or like high or low, that kind of stuff. Okay, so here's a one chart of that. And then and then I created decision tree, but I'm not using that this time. Okay, so these are the analytics I've created already. And then I started writing down the note. Okay, and it's always better to open this report, like dashboard, notes, presentation slides, in a separate window by clicking this button. And it not only has bigger real estate, but also what is useful is like I can go back and forth between a data frame and in the note I'm working on. So let's say like if I'm working on a particular, what's going on here? I think my machine is slow or something. Ooh. Okay. Oops, what's going on? Maybe my machine just got frozen or something. Okay. Seems like it got frozen. I've never seen that. But anyway, so let's kill. Oh, I can't even kill. Okay, so what's going on? Let's force quit. And okay. And when I force quit, typically what happens is sometimes oh, okay. Come on, no, please. Okay, seems okay. So let's start over. Okay, hope it's going to start okay. Sometimes there's some kind of R process. Oh, here it goes. So let's see. So if that's the case, there's a community page, how to kill. Oh, here you go. So I could open, I guess, like activity monitor app, and then there usually some like R serve, and then there's some process. If I force quit, what happened is some like underlying process doesn't get killed together, so I need to manually kill it. So force quit. Okay, did it die? Hopefully. Okay, let's see. Okay, so, and then let's open that data frame. Whoa, okay, so Hope this time it works okay. Here we go. Then let's open a new window. Here we go. All right, let's start again. Sorry about that. Okay, so now like we have the note, and then like I've already typed in like some of the words, and I just wanted to show you like how quickly like you can create notes. And then this is a Markdown Editor. Markdown Editor is basically like you use text to format the text. I know it's kind of weird, but once you get used to it, it's pretty cool. So at this point, like if I click on refresh button on right hand side, and then like you see exact the same thing what I write on left hand side, except it's kind of weirdly format. So from here, like what a couple of things I like to start doing. First, these are like a kind of toolbar to do the formatting. So before you get used to, like you might want to use this as your guidance. So like for example, if I click a couple times and then like you can you see that kind of like a pound sign showing up, and then like this pound sign means H1 header when you have only one. When you have two, that becomes the H2 header. So so that's how you can actually format kind of a structure of the document. And then there's a bold and italic. So like, for example, like if you want to make this sort of bold, and then you see like two asterisks at the beginning, at the end, and so on. And then here is something I would like to bullet point it. So like I want to actually use this icon right here. And then other thing I'd like to do is here, instead of bullet points, I want to use a number to do the kind of like a bullet point kind of stuff. So here you can actually use this. And it says 1 dot, or like it can be 1, 2, 3, either way. As long as it's number, you're gonna get that format. So let's see like how, what are we getting so far? So you see here, like a bullet points here, and 1, 2, 3, and then like you have the title right now. Okay, and then what I like to do is I want to create a report for this, and then like basically, let's create like a different section to talk about the insights that I have found so far, right? And then like what I can do is basically like same thing. And then once I get used to it, I can start using the Command H. That's a shortcut. And then here's also Command H shortcut. If you want to see other shortcuts and then keyboard shortcuts, you can click on this one, and you see like all different type of shortcuts as well. Okay. And then like what I can do is I want to, of course, start including the charts that I built, right? So here's a chart icon in the toolbar bottom. Then basically what I like to do is select the charts that I have created so far. So here I select the data frame, which is the HR employee data frame. And then these are the charts that I can select. But also like I want to start with analytics. So here, under the analytics, I did a correlation. And you remember like we had that predictor analysis as well. But first, let's bring this heat map that shows the correlations. And I noticed though, like these comments that I made at the chart level also being copied and pasted here automatically. So like I don't have to, start creating this text, and then instead like I can actually based on existing text or comment and start editing. And then like I can do, for example, not just the chart, but also analytics. I can do, for example, selecting the chart, the same thing. And then like a chart and then the comment are automatically pasted together. And then let's see like how, what we got so far. So like we got a chart and a comments and a chart and a comments, right? And then I want to do a couple of other things. So let's say like I want to bring another chart from the analytics. Let's say this random forest result, variable importance result. And then that's good. And then like let's refresh that right-hand side to preview what we got so far. Okay, here it goes. And it looks like there are a bunch of variables here. So I want to make this chart to be a little bigger. So here, like, we don't have much space. So when you have that situation, like you can actually make the single view by clicking that button and then click the run button. this might be easier to see like how exactly the final result will look like, right? And then when you make this chart bigger, and all you need to do is here is like there's a kind of a syntax area. So inside, this is like a sort of like a navigation path to the chart. But here in the attributes, we can change it. So it says width. I can change that to the full. And what is going to happen is when I show it, the chart is now using the full width of the available window. So much bigger, right? So that's you can do. And also like another chart I want to include, again, click on the this button. And then like, let's see, this one I'm using a repeat by to repeat the scatter plots for each job types. And then like I'm gonna click OK. And then this one again, if I just run it, then how it looks is there's a scroll bar showing up. And this might be sometimes okay, but sometimes like, hey, you know what, like, why don't you show me all the charts together, right? Instead of like without scroll bar. And again, like I can go back and then change this, for example, height to be full or like a width to be full. Then let's see how it looks. And then now when I scroll down, it is using a full width. So therefore like 5 charts are showing up. And then like also the height as well. So this is how you can actually do some kind of like a basic manipulation or like setting for that chart. But also another thing though, you notice left-hand side, there's a table contents. So when I click on particular contents, and then I can actually move between back and forth, right? So this is pretty convenient, especially for the people looking at the report that is a long report, right? And then these coming automatically created based on the H1 header or H2 header, right? So this part is H1, and then other part is H1, right? So that's why the pound, the one single pound thing. When you have a second 2 pounds, then that becomes the second kind of like an indented part of the TOC. And that configuration coming from this setting, when you click on this icon and then include table contents, you can disable it if you don't want to have it. And then you can decide how many levels, like how is like H1, H2, H3, or H4, and that kind of stuff. And then like so you can do some of the setting here as well. Okay. And then the cool thing though is that this is a Markdown editor, but also most precisely, it is actually using something called R Markdown. R Markdown is Markdown that can be used in our environment, where you can use R to basically write the documents, right? So why it's so cool is, let's say I'm going to use my cheat sheet here. You might want to, when I go to the edit, type here, let's say distribution of monthly income, right? And then instead of using the chart that from the that you created in the Exploratory, you might want to use our functions or our package. So here, like I'm using one of the almost like basically de facto standard of the chart, the most great chart library or chart framework in R called ggplot2. And then I'm using that to draw the chart. And then let's see how it looks. So here though, basically I'm setting this is like a data frame name, and the data frame name is coming from this data frame name, right? And then this is a column name, it's like a monthly income, and also like I'm setting the job role to be color. And then like when I run it, and then I think the distribution here. So this is the chart being generated by the ggplot2. So, and of course, you don't have to use ggplot2. Like there are tons of other data visualization packages in R, and also other stuff like statistical statistics and machine learning. Many other R packages in R. So you can actually use pretty much anything you want, as long as it works in R Markdown. So that's pretty cool. And the other things is you could do, inline. So like instead of like having the separate, you could, for example, as a part of this text to be the calculation of the data. Let's say like how many records and stuff. And then, so that's, I'm gonna show you in a second when I present the presentation slides. Okay. So that's, yes. And then other things is that like sometimes you might want to show the table. So you can, let's say I don't have the table, or maybe here. Oops, maybe here. Oh yeah, I can show the table. Let's say in a note, but I'm actually putting a different data frame, here now. So this is coming from the flight data, right? So you can actually create a table under the chart tab and then bring it into the note. Or you can do is type in the R command to get that table as well. It's the same thing as using ggplot. But when you do it, like you click on this R code button, and the inside. So let's say like if I want to include something like this HR employee attribution, and you got to be careful. If you type on this, this will create a table, but try to show all the data. In this case, I think it's 1,500 records, so it's not that much, but even then, it's pretty big. So typically, like there's a head command in R, and then like you just limit how many records, and this will give you the first 20 rows of the table. Or you can do is here is the best. If you are familiar with R, you can do anything like what you would do in R. So using the pipe, and then let's say like using the count command, and then let's say like maybe job role, and then I can do the calculation. These all have employee attribution. What is going on here? Employee attribution. Maybe something is wrong in here. Account job role. Oh yeah. There's a. Here we go. And then you get that data like this as well. So you can bring in the power of R and then also the Exploratory together, and then you can create a really nice report that like you want to actually present other folks. Okay, so that's the note. And then last not the least is a slide. So I've already created a presentation slides. I've already created one sort of like a basic example here. And again, it's better to open a new separate window, because then like you can have the biggest real estate, and also you can do like a going back and forth between the data frame and presentation slide in this case. So presentation slide is really actually really cool. So here I've created a couple things, and then creating a new page is using this icon. This will actually drop this 3 dash and make, and this is a page separator. Okay, so if I don't have this, and then if I click on, let's say, let's do like a single mode, and then I can go to run button, and then like I get basically flight analysis report, Kanishida, and objectives. But if I go back to the, and then just type 3 dash, make sure there's no space after it. When you have the space, then it won't do the page break. And then here now, like I have only flight analysis report in the first page, and then when I'm using the key of next button or enter key, and then go to do the page navigation here. Okay. And then basically like I have a few pages, and there's one chart I have already included. To include the chart is exactly doing the same thing that I use in Note, using the chart tab, chart button, right? And here is the example, like I'm using the inline R command or function. So here, what I'm really doing is, this is like, again, airline data. So this is a data frame name, and then I'm using n row. N row is number of rows. So it returns number of the rows. But if I do that, then it actually doesn't do the number format, like Southern separator or decimal digit. So I'm using this format function to do the number format here. Okay. The other thing, so when you use the inline, all you need to do is a back tick to surround it. And then also, like, the first letter should be the R. Then from here to here is basically, this is one command line of R. Then, like, you can actually do some calculation and then show the result as part of the sentence you're writing. You can even, like, use, for example, 2 asterisks to highlight the whatever the value returned by R as well. So when you do something like this, then you get only the part is highlighted as well. Okay. So from here, like, I want to do a couple things. By the way, like, I forgot to show you a couple cool things in Note. Is that, like, it's very easy to bring in the image. This Note on this presentation slide, basically the same thing. So what I mean by that is, you can, let's say, have the image, right? So all you need to do is just drag and drop. And then that copies the image underneath the project. And then, like, when I go round bottom, and you have that image showing up in your presentation slide or Note, either way. You can do drag and drop, or what another thing you could do is, for example, let's say, like, if you are looking for, let's creating an employee report or something like that, and then, like, you find a really nice looking chart image on the website, and all you need to do is just, like, you got to be careful with the copyright, of course. I'm not suggesting you anything here, but when you find a chart that you can use, then you do the copy image, and then Command V for Mac or Control V for Windows. And then the same thing, it will spit out basically pasting the chart inside a project of the same project, and then, like, giving you this URL that pointing to that image. So basically, it does the same thing. Okay. So now here is a flight report. So I'm going to actually use that the original one. So I'm going to just drag and drop, and then do. And also, another thing I forgot to mention is you can create a link. So let's say, like, you highlight particular text, and then either you click on this button with a hyperlink link, hyperlink button, or Command K, and then that basically, now all I need to do is just type the URL here, and then make this particular part is to be the URL link. Okay. So having said that, now the problem is that all you see is a chart image, but you're not seeing this flight analysis report or something like that. To do, there's a little bit of trick that you want to make. The first is something called URL, a background image. So this is the one, like, you want to use here, and then you don't actually need this, like, a markdown thing. All you need to do is this URL, and that's what you need. And then this is going to make this chart to be the background cover image. Okay, so that, like, kind of looks nicer, but still, there are a couple of things I would like to do. Like, I want to move this, like, a title area or this text to be the center. And also, like, I want to actually, instead of using the black color, I want to just inverse the color to be white color or something. So that's, so that you could use CSS if you're familiar with HTML. So, like, for example, like a center in the middle, this center in the middle brings this text to the middle and the center alignment. And then the inverse is the one that makes this text color to be flipped. So, like, in the opposite side, it's more like a whitish color. So when I go click, and then now, like, I see the title at the center, but not only that, the color is also flipped. In this case, the white color now. Okay, so the cover page looks okay. And then now, like, what I want to do is, here's the objectives. And then objectives also, there are a couple of cool things I can do. Right now, when I go here, these 3 bullet points are showing up at the same time. wouldn't that be nice if you can show one by one? What I mean by that is when you actually type in here 2 dash instead of 3 dash. If when you type 3 dash, that's going to break the create a new page, right? But instead you create a 2 dash. Then that is going to do is when I go to that slide, I see only one bullet point at the beginning, and I can start adding, clicking the right arrow key, and then showing the bullet points one by one. Okay, and then one thing though is like here's a page number, and the page number is actually also increasing by showing each bullet point, and I can actually disable it. How you do it? Well, there's something called count false, and then if I type on this, and then that's now gonna add in the new page number. So like now, notice here the one page, and the second page. And then when I show in these bullet points, the page number stays the same. Okay, so that's a little trick in here. So another thing I want to do is I want to include other charts. So for example, this page, I want to show the 2 charts, and then hopefully like side by side. So select the chart first. Like I want to bring this heat map, and then I want to bring maybe this like a violin plot. And if I run this, what is going to happen is that page will show only the first chart. And then there's a second chart, but that's actually down underneath, and it's not even showing up. What we want to do is like we want to do like a kind of a side-by layout. And then that you can do with a little trick here that I want to show you. These tricks or these stuff are actually documented it. And I'm going to actually share the URL where you can find these things. So one thing we can do is something called pull left, using pull left and right. So basically, whatever inside this syntax is going to be dragged into the left side. And then same thing, whatever inside of this like a pull right syntax is going to be drawn to the right side. So what that means is if I click on run button and then go to that particular page, and then now I have the 2 charts side by side. Okay. And other cool thing is the last page. Here again, I can write the R code, basically the same thing I did with Note, or I can select the chart. Either way. So let's say maybe I have the chart, and then when I run it, so notice though here's a 3 question mark. And these 3 question mark is for the presenter note. So that means that this particular piece after the 3 question mark won't be shown to inside the presentation slide, but it can be seen only to you. What do you mean? What do I mean by that? When I click run button and then go to that particular page, right? And then this is what the audience will see. And how are you going to see the notes to yourself? Well, when you publish, let's say like I've already published this slide, or you can actually open your web browser or export as HTML, either way. But since I published already, I'm going to open that here. And then again, I want to open without the header. So open new window. Then the background image is a little different, but basically the same, right? And then now what I can do is I'm using the keyboard of the right arrow key, and then showing the different type of the charts, right? So this is nothing. Whoa. Let's actually the content is pretty different. So I'm going to open in the web browser on my local machine for now. And here, that is very close to what I was working on. And then here, what I can do is type just the P button. So this type of keyboard also, keyboard shortcut is also documented, and I'm going to share the URL as well. So if I type on the P button, P stands for the presentator role, presentator mode. So type on the P, what? And this is the presentator mode. Then when you're connecting to, let's say, PGA or whatever the projector, then this part is the one like the audience who are looking at. And then, but this whole screen is the one like you're looking at, right? So then like you can see like what would be the next slide. And also here is the note that you should see. So if I'm scrolling down and then going to the last slide here, and then right now the audience is looking at this particular slide. But when I go to the last slide, and then this is the note that only I can see, that one like I'm presenting. But the projector or like the, when you present them, this is the one like the audience is looking at. So therefore, it's actually pretty cool to have this presentator role with this 3 question mark here. Okay. And there are many more things we can do, but I think that's, we already like at 12 o'clock. So I'm going to stop here. But that's basically what I have done so far, is to show like how to create a dashboard with parameters, and also how to create a note and then presentation slides. And the note and that presentation slides also can use the parameters. So during the report, in part of your report, you might want to change the parameters for the users and then or the audience. They can actually change the parameters. They can do that as well. Okay. I'm going to stop share. And then I like to open up the question session. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. No. Could you guys see my screen? Somebody said like my screen has gone black. Does that mean like nobody was looking at be able to see my screen? Hope not. That was very informative. Okay. Okay. If you guys have any questions, I'll answer in the chat window, or you're mute, so like you need to unmute yourself if you like to say something. Okay.